For decades, marijuana was considered by the federal government to be a Schedule I drug, with a high potential for abuse and no medical benefits. But now, that's changing. President Trump's executive order directs federal agencies to begin the process of reclassifying cannabis as a Schedule III substance, putting it in the same category as drugs like ketamine and some anabolic steroids. For Montana's legal cannabis industry, the shift could be significant, especially when it comes to taxes. At Yellowstone Buds in Billings, owner David Hiller says federal tax code 280E has long made operating a cannabis business far more expensive than most other industries.
So we literally can't write off payroll or expenditures within the store. Typically with 280E, most operators are spending between 65 to 70% in taxes.
Hiller says rescheduling cannabis would eliminate that burden, allowing dispensaries to operate more like traditional businesses.
We're hopeful that we kind of go back into a regular business model where our tax liabilities aren't more than 50%.
And that relief could mean more hiring and reinvestment here in Montana.
I'm just excited not to spend as much on taxes and potentially be able to hire a few more folks with the savings that we'll have.
James Stevens, CEO of Missoula-based Sinful Beverages, says the tax relief alone could reshape the industry.
We're absolutely going to see the ability of tax relief to occur for cannabis companies at the state level. And I think that's going to lead to, kind of a surge in hiring and jobs and actually reinvestment as we see the federal government ease up restrictions on it.
But beyond business impacts, industry experts say the biggest change may be what rescheduling allows from a scientific standpoint. At New Frontier Laboratory, Director of Operations Carl Rude says cannabis Schedule I status has long limited legitimate research.
The reclassification to Schedule III promises a start that people have been asking for in the world of cannabis. From a research perspective, from a prescribability perspective, this is the opportunity for the industry to prove the medicinal value that they've known for years and years existed.
Rude says Schedule I classification effectively framed cannabis as having no legitimate medical purpose, making meaningful studies difficult. He says rescheduling could change that, shifting research toward understanding how cannabis works, how it's used, and how it affects people over time. Consumer and patient advocates say the change could also impact how people use and access cannabis, making it more legitimate and safer for everyday patients, including in some states where cannabis remains illegal.
I think it means it opens a door that wasn't open to them before. And so yes, in a place where it's legal, perhaps this isn't that big of a victory. But there's a lot of states where people don't have access to the products they need, or they're not affordable, or they need access to medical care, and they're not getting that right now.
And that research could eventually shape consumer understanding, product safety, and medical use, something some Montana growers say is overdue. At Uncle Buck's dispensary and glass shop in Lockwood, owner Uncle Buck says he welcomes the scientific scrutiny.
So my reaction to that is joy. And the reason I'm joyful is because it means that genuine research will now be able to happen on cannabis so that the scientific community can join us in discovering the benefits from cannabis.
Uncle Buck says expanded research could also address safety concerns, including what ends up in cannabis products before they reach consumers.
That means that as a whole, people are going to find out the truth, about what is actually in cannabis.
Still, industry leaders caution that rescheduling doesn't mean full legalization, and many details remain unclear. Federal oversight could expand, and future rules from agencies like the DEA or FDA could shape how cannabis is produced and sold nationwide. For now, Montana operators say they're watching closely, hopeful but realistic.
And that's my hope, that things don't change very much except for the tax liabilities. There's going to be pros and cons to this.
And while stigma around cannabis still exists, Rude says cultural shifts take time and data.
I don't know that the change in how it is scheduled will change somebody's overall perception of it. It'll give us the opportunity to put data to things that we're observing.
For many in Montana's cannabis industry, that opportunity alone marks a turning point.
It does really create an opportunity to really solidify this as a career pathway and an expansion business pathway for Montana businesses.
Now, this rescheduling doesn't happen overnight. Federal agencies still need to go through a formal rulemaking process, which could take months. But Montana cannabis businesses tell me even the prospect of tax relief is already changing how they plan for the future. Many are hoping to reinvest savings into jobs, expansion, and long-term stability. Now, this does not legalize cannabis at the federal level. It will still be regulated state by state, including here in Montana. But industry leaders say it will open up the door to research, transparency, and a better understanding of the risks and benefits for consumers. In Billings, Rachel Kindred, Nonstop Local.